Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. Welcome to SPIN's Journey Through the Wilderness Session 2, Teacher and Family Partnerships, Finding Trees in the Forest. For this session, we will have an hour of presentation from 10:20 a.m. to 11:20 a.m. So sit back, relax, learn with us, and enjoy. I am Rain Tirado, and with me today is Trixie Tamboan. Say hi, Trixie.
Hi, aloha, everyone.
We will be your Wilderness Explorer guides for this presentation. But before we proceed with today's presentation, let's first review the SPIN's golden rules for a great Zoom conference. Trixie, what are SPIN's golden rules?
Of course. So today workshops will be in webinar format. Your video and sound will be turned off. To ask a question, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Be kind, be considerate, and be respectful. All workshops will be recorded and posted to the SPIN conference website soon after. And then please help us by filling out our workshop evaluation using the link provided in your workshop chat.
Thank you so much, Trixie. So to turn on automatic Zoom captions, please check the bottom of your screen. Look for the CC Live transcript button. Then you can click on the up arrow to open a new window. You may also click on the show subtitle and the captions will be on the screen. You can also turn off the subtitles by hiding them. Also, please don't forget to fill out a short evaluation for this workshop before you go. And before we welcome our speakers for this session, let's hear from Trixie about our door prize for today. Yes, we have some prizes for our attendees. Trixie.
Yes, so at the end of today's presentation, we will be announcing 4 SPIN winners. So please stay in with us throughout the entire presentation, and we will be announcing who will be the winners for today during this session. So mahalo again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Trixie. And now let's meet our guide experts. For this presentation, we have Linnea Reeves, parent consultant from the Leadership in Disabilities and Achievement of Hawaii, also known as LDAH, and Derek Govan, special education teacher from Eva Makaya Middle. He's also the co-coordinator for the Speducator project. Ladies and gentlemen, students and parents, let's welcome Linnea and Derek.
All right, thank you, Rain. If I can just ask you to mute yourself, please. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Derek and I today. I am Linnea. I am a parent consultant from Leadership in Disabilities and Achievement of Hawaii, also known as LDAH or LADA, and I am going to guide you through the trees and into the forest for the first half hour, where families and schools will find common ground in order to design a supportive IEP. Okay, next slide. So in part 1, I will be presenting information on what IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, says about meaningful parent participation, the IEP team process, and a support model, or how we connect in common agreement to support children and youth through co-designing supportive IEPs. Okay. So our goal is to enhance the IEP team through redesigning the approach to meetings by finding common ground to improve student success. So think about what finding common ground means to you or what it means as a collective. Feel free to share your ideas in the chat. So I think of shared ideas, interests, beliefs between people who often maybe disagree. It's finding out what do we have in common? How do we come together to reach a successful outcome? Achieving common ground is typically when someone will propose something, or maybe a team will propose something, perhaps a set of meaningful goals, which can be agreed upon. And once an agreement happens and goals are set, that becomes your common ground. Next slide. Okay, so IDEA, let's move into this. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 2004 is the foundation of today's presentation. And IDEA says so itself. It's about strengthening the role and responsibility of parents and ensuring that families of such children have meaningful opportunities to participate in the education of their children at school and at home. IDEA also says parents and schools should be given expanded opportunities to resolve their disagreements in positive and constructive ways. So an example would be alternative dispute resolution. There are alternatives when you do come in disagreement. So that would be your facilitated IEP or mediation. It's not uncommon to disagree with your school or with people in general, but think about how can you resolve your disagreements constructively. Next slide. So the IEP team process. There are required team participants. You have your administrator, parents, regular or general education teacher, and the special education teacher. Details can be found in the Hawaii Administrative Rules, Chapter 60, which is the implementation of the federal law, IDEA 2004. So Hawaii Administrative Rules, that's your state law. The IEP is a program, it's not a plan, although it's common to hear people refer to it as an individualized education plan. Your child's individualized education program is the program you and your team agreed upon for your child. So I'll use an example. So booking a trip to Disneyland. So you have this plan, you've booked your trip, but planning and implementing a specific itinerary for each day while you're in Disneyland, that is your program. So look at the IEP as a written statement for each child with a disability that maps out special education instruction, supports, and services that a child with a disability needs to access their education and make meaningful progress. It is reviewed and revised in accordance with law. When appropriate, students with disabilities may attend their IEP. And I'm a huge believer in self-advocacy and self-determination. The sooner, the better. Having your child learn and sit in on their IEP is a good first step towards living a self-determined, independent life after high school. You may notice that the child is not listed as required on this list. However, we at LDH encourage parents to include their children when appropriate so that they can learn the process and understand, so they can find their own voice. By the age of 14 in the IEP team process, you will start learning and writing about your child's transition into adulthood after high school. Let me briefly talk about our IEP team members and their roles and responsibilities. So these 4 essential people that need to be at the meeting, you can also invite your advocate, BCBA, physical therapist, occupational therapist, maybe PE teacher. The list can vary, but today, let me just go over these 4 team members. So IDEA wants to ensure that educators and parents have the necessary tools to improve educational results for children with disabilities by supporting system improvement activities, coordinated research, personnel preparation, coordinated technical assistance, dissemination and support, and technology development and media services. We don't only have to focus on the 4 subjects. There are other activities that we can use that will help to meet the unique needs of your child. So your administrator. This is the person who approves school resources for your child when budget and finance is concerned. The law allows for the administrator to decide who releases resources. So this person must also be qualified to provide or supervise special education services. This position of administrator can be assigned by the principal to maybe the VP or vice principal, or even the student services coordinator, otherwise known as the SSC. You always want to clarify the role of the administrator in your meeting. Again, this is the person that takes into account the variables of agreement, ensures the program services can be implemented. There should never be a conversation about not having money. If this happens, write it down. You want to compose or write a letter to the principal stating you do not understand what that means and how the IEP team or how we can as a team resolve the matter. Parents, of course, you know your child best. Here at LDAH, we strive to empower our parents through small group sessions. We equip parents and families with the tools and knowledge they need to meaningfully participate. And what that looks like, which I'll go into further depth later, is organizing your documents. You'll also have your regular education teacher or your gen ed teacher. This is the person responsible for the general education curriculum. The gen ed teacher measures the progress of the child based on their current grade level. This person is there to tell you what the curriculum of the child's grade level looks like as goals are being designed. And your special education teacher, who delivers the specially designed instruction based on the unique needs of your child. This means adapting the content, the delivery of instruction to what is appropriate to the individual needs of your child. There is no one size fits all to specially designed instruction. This ensures your child can have access to the general curriculum. Whew, okay, so now that we covered all 4 positions, think about how different everyone may be in terms of beliefs, values, knowledge, perhaps their style of communication, maybe even language. So with all of this in mind, how do you find common ground? Next slide. Okay. All right, so let's talk about how the IEP teams come together. So this is based on what we at LDAH commonly see or what we commonly hear. Now, this isn't going to apply for everyone. It's just kind of what we come across. So here, looking at our chart, we have our IEP meeting table. So on one side, you have parents, and on the other side, you have the school. When parents and their school team get together, or as an IEP team, and the parent starts to share their concerns, and the school is there listening, the red line you see here is what the school may hear. When the school attempts to address what parents' concerns are and they respond, this is what the parent hears. The middle piece, or your model of support, is where LDAH, where we come in, which then leads to IDEA and its 6 principles, which I will get into later. And if we can keep the principles of IDEA aligned as we meet as a team, we can reach student success in designing a supportive IEP. The 6 principles of IDEA is your center of operation. This is the main place that both parents and teachers need to depend on. And again, I will get into more detail later. Okay, so as you may notice, these lines of communication, they're not meeting. They are all up and down, and it's not coming together in a straight line. It's red and looks frazzled. Parents are participating in their meaningful way, and the school is participating in their meaningful way. When parents and schools communicate and they are leaning on one another for guidance, sometimes what is being said is skewed. Parents may feel the school doesn't get it, the teacher doesn't listen, always says he never has behaviors in school, or maybe the school might feel that they can't get their message across no matter what they do, no matter what I do, what the parents don't agree. I try to communicate, and maybe that might look like emails or texts or notes in your child's planner. There are multiple things that parents go through that teachers don't see, and multiple things going on in the school or with teachers and administrators that parents don't see. And it's hard to see the forest through the trees when you've got multiple barriers in the way of meaningful participation in designing a supportive IEP. So again, this red line represents what we often hear at LDH. Now the red line can change, and we're going to help you see the forest through the trees along the way to designing a supportive IEP. In light of team differences, this red line can change into something productive and responsive. So things to consider: what do you want your school to hear? What are you coming with to the table, and how do you approach? Parents know their children best. What are your concerns? Do you understand your child's disability, your child's needs, your child's strengths? Who's impacted at home? How are siblings affected? How much time do you invest in supporting your child with a disability? What is balancing work and home life like? So there's a lot of things to consider that you may want to communicate with your school team. So here is where we at LDH come in with our model of support, and we offer our small group sessions. So when you come to a small group session, we are sifting through information, data, documents, and narrowing the feelings and IEP anxiety down to organized facts. We are increasing your capacity to advocate, communicate effectively, listen to understand, and not just to respond. It's organizing your documents, understanding and knowing 6 principles of IDEA so that you can meaningfully participate in your child's IEP. The IEP is individualized to the unique needs of your child and identifies the strengths and needs of your child. When you come to LDAH, we ask for your IEP, your assessments or evaluations, and we highlight, we organize, we pull all those strengths and needs, and we put it into a chart or a T-chart. Then we compare what it says to the IEP. You may notice on page 2 of the IEP, otherwise known as the present levels of educational performance, or the PLEP. From there, it works down to the goals, to the services, modifications, and supports. So this process that we use, this is a model of support that we implement in helping parents and preparing them for their IEP. We prep and provide our model of support using the school's IEP assessments. Now, that is if they have done the assessments, and any data that you may have received. And we do this because this is what they wrote, they created, they gave you, and we're helping parents to prepare when they go into the meeting. And this is where you'll find common ground. It's parents that are prepared and the school being prepared, and then having your documents organized. And we do have an organizing documents toolkit here at LDAH that we do give to our families, along with worksheets to help you stay organized and aligned with your team. Okay. So just like how we see the strengths of our children, we need to understand and respect the strengths of our school team. It's knowing their role, respecting boundaries, listening, and responding, not reacting. At LDAH, we are building the bridge between family and school. We want families and schools to see the best in one another, and the commonality that as a team, we all want what is individualized to the unique needs of the child, your child, the student. And in order to change the outcome or system from being us versus them, the team has to be willing to see one another's strengths. So looking at the model of support again, meaningful participation. So parents, it's highlighting your child's assessments and evaluations, seeing and understanding needs and strengths, preparation, organization, having enough information and knowledge and the tools to walk into the IEP with confidence. It's preparation, data, facts. Building a foundation, 6 principles of IDEA. This is going to drive the meeting. Action steps, collaborating as a team to decide what is appropriate. In terms of specially designed instruction, services, accommodations, and modifications. And if we can keep this aligned, we will reach student success. Okay, so how can parents become part of the IEP team process and meaningfully participate? So the model of support encourages parents to increase their participation by sharing what goes on in the home, what happens out in the community with their child, are their behaviors, what are their child's interests? What amazing things can you share in terms of achievements in sports or extracurricular activities? What works at home? What doesn't? You want to bring as much information that you can to the table. Do not withhold information. Give the school a clear understanding of what your concerns are and why you have those concerns. It gives them perspective, something to reflect on when you start to wind down to making decisions and taking action steps. A student spends approximately 138 hours per week with their family. This is pre-COVID numbers. Post-COVID, this has increased. Okay, so how does the school meaningfully participate? So your child's school is ultimately responsible for the process. It's reporting data, sharing work samples, commenting on strategies at work, describing progress, sharing good days, accomplishments in the classroom, what works, reporting observations and response to intervention. A student spends approximately 30 hours per week in school. Okay, so as we move into the IEP meeting with our model of support in mind, and we bring both parents and school meaningfully participating, or in other words, parents being prepared with their documents, concerns, information from home and out in the community, the school with their data, information on progress, observations, response to intervention, we move into co-designing and collaborating, and this becomes meaningful participation. Okay, so now let's look at the 6 principles of IDEA that I promised I would dive into. So this part can get really lengthy. So what I will touch on is FAPE, or free appropriate public education, procedural safeguards, and the parent, and of course, when appropriate, student, but parent participation in decision making. If you would like to learn more, you can visit our Learning Works page of our LDH website, where you may review our workshop trainings. Okay, so starting with free appropriate public education, or FAPE. So here the government pays for the education of students with disabilities or learning differences. There is no cost to the family unless there are extra school fees. So for example, sports and club fees, that is something all students would have to pay. Appropriate. So children with disabilities who have an IEP or Section 504 will be provided special education appropriate to their unique needs. It does not mean the best services to maximize their learning and potential. The law requires that schools provide reasonably calculated services to help a child make progress. Public. So specially designed instruction and special education services are supervised by the public school. An IEP team collaborates to decide what services and support the student gets based on the student's individual and unique needs. And education, special education, which may include related services. So that could be speech therapy, counseling, transportation. Okay, and then we have appropriate evaluation, of course, your individualized education program, the least restrictive environment, procedural safeguards. So you should have, this is the blue booklet you get typically at your IEP meeting, if you can recall. It is provided under IDEA and Chapter 60 Hawaii Law and Regulations. The procedural safeguard notice includes a full explanation of procedures. So for example, complaint procedures, parental consent, confidentiality of information. You'll find that in the procedural safeguards. Parent and student participation in decision-making. So again, the parent is required, student participation as appropriate, but substantial effort must be made by the school to secure parent attendance in an IEP meeting. There is no specific timeline. However, schools must notify parents of the IEP meeting early enough to ensure parents have an opportunity to attend. This is also so that the parent has a chance to prepare. So these 6 principles of IDEA is to ensure that all children with disabilities have available to them a free, appropriate public education that emphasizes special education and related services designed to meet their unique needs and to prepare them for future education, employment, and independent living. Okay, here's our model of support again. Okay, so action steps. In finding common ground, let's look at common practices shared between parents and school. So I think we can agree, we both come from disability awareness. We both are willing and looking to build a relationship and have come to the IEP wanting to understand. We want to collaborate. We come from a place of advocacy. And at times we're gonna have agreements, disagreements, and that's okay. But both parents and the school can take action steps. This will create a supportive framework of information that will bring the IEP team close to designing a supportive IEP. Okay. All right, so the model of support, again, action steps. You want to be able to listen. I can't emphasize this enough. So both sides need to be open and willing to listen. Both parents and the school team have a responsibility to communicate effectively, to listen and hear each other out. You want to utilize experts. So perhaps, bring in your occupational therapist, your physical therapist, rely or ask questions if you have any questions, ask your special education teacher. These experts are there to help work together and make, so parents or the IEP team can make informed decisions. Be mindful of the delivery of information that you are sharing with your team members. Be mindful of your tone, your approach, your language. Are you providing enough context in your delivery? Do you have enough information? Share goals and be open to exchange suggestions. And if you look at the bottom between action steps and student success, there's that arrow that's circled. This is where we get stuck, between action steps and student success. And even though we have the meaningful participation, the action steps might get a little murky. Disagreements may come to surface. So be mindful of your approach on both sides. Stick with the facts and information. Stay calm and finding a solution, and be responsive and not reactive. Student success. Okay, so there's communication. This is what student success looks like. Communication. Parents and the school are communicating back and forth. They've built that relationship and rapport. Progress monitoring, informal assessments, progress to reach annual goals, data, everything comes together and has an impact. When we co-design efficiently as a team, these are the areas that are impacted. Everyone has an understanding of what it will take to help the student succeed. And social acceptance. Your child will feel good about going to school, good about their teachers, their friends, good about themselves. They look forward to learning. Support is whole and all around for your child, for the student. Okay, oh, where's my progressive model? Let's see. Oh, hold on a second. I have a progressive model. I want to show you what it looks like.
Sorry, Lenny, give me a second.
Yeah,
we've got a
no
lag going.
problem.
I see something different in my presentation than
No.
what is popping up. There you go.
There
Sorry
it
about
is.
that, friend.
No problem. Okay, so look, no red lines. Okay, this is our progressive model. So we've all come prepared. School and parent can meet in the middle to co-design a supportive IEP that can be implemented effectively because both sides of the table have shared enough information to support what is appropriate for the child. This is a high impact IEP meeting. Why? Because we are respecting one another, respecting differences, recognizing strengths, bringing in the data that supports decision making, and we are leaning on one another to understand what is appropriate for the student. This all circles back to the 6 principles of IDEA. Whew. On behalf of LDAH, we sincerely hope that with enough information and knowing your rights and the rights of your child, we can help you prepare, equip you, and stay connected in partnership with your school. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I appreciate it. I'm going to hand it over to our SPEDucator, Derek, who will go over part 2 of today's presentation.
Thank you, Lene. Hi, everyone. My name is Derek Govan. I've been a special education teacher for 8 years. My passion is not only for serving our students with disabilities by helping them to achieve their potential and to find their voice, but as an alumni of the Hawaii State Teacher Fellowship, my passion project is to build community amongst special education teachers to give them the supports they need to continue to grow professionally and find fulfillment in their career and helping them to elevate their voice as well. So I work alongside with my co-coordinator, Janet Kim from the University of Hawaii, in leading a grassroots innovative partnership to address both recruitment and retention needs for the state, known as the SPEDucator Project. And so that's the branding you see below my photo from our pilot year last school year, where we launched the Someone Special for Students and social media campaigns to both elevate and change the narrative around the profession. So we focused on empowering our 20 SPEDucators across 13 out of the 15 complex areas in the state to become leaders in the field by learning about policy, state structures, and providing SPED-specific training in areas such as data collection and the HA framework. Lastly, we inspired them to begin thinking about how they can address a problem of practice within their own classroom, school, complex, or for the state through their own passion projects. And so actually that's what I'm going to talk to you about. I'm going to talk to you about what I'm going to call my tips and tricks of how I focus on addressing a problem of practice within my own classroom by being relationship focused and building a community in a student-centered manner, and how I truly believe it's one of the most powerful things that can happen for our students with special needs within our specially designed classrooms. So the first thing I'd like to speak on is the power of being focused on relationship building. Before I can even think about teaching my students, research shows that the most effective thing I can do first and foremost is to pair with them. To begin teaching my students, they have to know I believe in them. I see them for who they are and that I believe in them and their capabilities. Next, I must convey this message to the parents. That is absolutely imperative that they learn the philosophy of their child's teacher, understand their reasoning within their teaching methods, and that the parents have a voice in their child's education. Principals must see the value of what a highly qualified special education teacher brings, not only to the classroom, but to the school environment as a whole. And so first and foremost, like I said, as a professional,
Sorry, Derek, could you just slow down a tad bit?
Of course.
Really fast. Thank you.
Thank you. The first and foremost thing I do as a professional is that I pair with my students. I find out what motivates them, what things they enjoy, as well as what things they do not enjoy, right? I just bond with my students, and I do this for 2 weeks. I teach no academics. I only teach our new routines, and I pair with my classroom staff and the students. I find that this is vital to display my true, authentic self in showing that I have a genuine passion for each individual student, their families, the program I'm teaching, and the community at large. Students must feel from me that my intentions are genuinely good, and that they're safe to work and they're safe to mess up. That they have a teacher who is going to continue to believe in their abilities to be the best version of themselves that they can be. So on February 2nd, 2021, the Speducator Project started a movement on social media where we recognize an individual or a group that is passionate and supportive of special education and the students they serve. And we began referring to this individual as an exception ally. When I met the amazing parent you see pictured here, I knew that I was going to connect with her. It was an immediate thing. She was on fire for her son. She had compassion and understanding of him in speaking with me. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, she is an incredibly powerful woman. I immediately know that I both wanted and needed to keep this parent close, because not only does she have the most valuable input regarding her son, but she is a valuable asset to me in bringing parent perspective to our classroom program in regards to how it applies to the real world, both outside of the school for the current year, as well as when her son transitions to post-high school living. As a speducator, I cannot emphasize enough that the way I must work collaboratively with my parents requires that I am 100% genuine and authentic in my approach. And I also take quite a vulnerable step forward as well. That's just my personal approach. I'm quick to say when I mess up, admit that I will absolutely continue to mess up and I'll own those mistakes. But I find that being open with parents creates this bridge that we have access to one another and can just let down the walls and admit that while we have these different personal and professional opinions on matters at times, we can still always trust and believe in each other to have the students and the child's best interest at heart. When working with principals, it's most important to show that at all times, you're going to be the biggest advocate for the student within your classroom at all times, at all costs. When you work in the field of special education, whether it's a principal, a sped teacher, a parent, you can imagine the challenges that come, and we know these. Principals have to oversee the entire school while showing a deep care and understanding for each individual student while leading their team of educators. Principals are tasked with finding quality special education teachers who will believe in the abilities of every single student with special needs and who will always seek to better not just the lives of that individual student, but have a positive impact on the families, the school environment, and the community at large. And so I applied to work for Principal Kim Sanders, and upon being accepted to this position within a fully self-contained classroom at Eva Mackay, I knew I wanted to hit the ground running to make a difference. And working for someone who is as passionate and innovative as Principal Sanders is a dream because, as you see in the photo, there's so much life and good energy to be experienced. And our students feel that. Our students and our parents know when we genuinely care about the students' academic achievement, not only just about that, but their social and emotional needs as well. And so by the end of Q1 of the school year, we had designed and implemented a sensory room based on student need to provide students with an outlet to get all of their sensory needs met so that when they return to their classrooms, they're ready to learn and able to focus in a way they wouldn't be able to without that. To feel that you belong and have such a sense of community as professionals is what keeps us on fire for our students and keeps us ready to innovate and fulfill passion projects that will cause our energy levels to remain high and carry that same energy over to our students and parents for optimal learning. As a special education teacher, it's so important to know the power of community. I am 100% certain that I would not be the teacher I am today without having gone through the Hawaii State Teacher Fellowship under Kristen Brummel, where she had us to understand and expand our professional learning networks. After being a part of this network, I used COVID as a catalyst for an innovative project that would build community of special education teachers as an immediate strategy to address our special education teacher retention, while also thinking of long-term and our need to help change the narrative and elevate the profession as a recruitment strategy as well. And there's my picture. I want to make sure you could see that. So there's our Speducator project. And like I said, it's an innovative thing between the College of Education and the Department of Education to address recruitment to retention pipeline of special education teachers here in the state. And so just as special education teachers need their network, the same is absolutely true for my parents. It's within my own family, I have cousins who have disabilities, and some of which have autism spectrum disorder. And I've heard the grief, and I've seen what my aunts and uncles have gone through, as well as I've had the parents who just simply come into my classroom in tears that they feel that they have no one. And it's a vulnerable thing to do. And when I think back on it and I think about how hard it was to see and experience, I was also thankful because it told me that my classroom was their safe space and that they felt they could come to me. So as parents, I cannot encourage you, those of you here, to reach out and find and seek out those support groups, any networks and resources through this conference, and just connect with groups that can provide you with the understanding, the love, and the support that other individuals may not be able to give you. There is tremendous power in community, and that is something I fully believe is capable of changing the lives of everyone. So earlier, Lene was given examples of how teachers and within the school can engage with parents and the rest of the IEP team to make sure we're collaborating in a progressive manner. And I'd like to take a look at ways I believe special education teachers can be sure to, first off, connect with the parents at the beginning of the year, continue that open line of communication, share data in a meaningful way, and analyze it so that it can be easily understood by all. So the two examples on the screen, they're ways in which I choose to engage with my families to make sure they begin to know who I am as an educator and as a person, as well as to keep them connected with us to know what the focus is within the program. The teacher introduction goes out immediately at the beginning of the school year, paired with an extensive email, which highlights my passion for the profession, my years of experience, and what expertise I bring to the table. The last statements in this email are written in a way that highlight that I have a personal connection to the profession, and as I have my own family members with special needs. Our research shows us that individuals who have prior experience and a personal connection with this line of work will achieve higher levels of retention in the profession throughout their careers. And I firmly believe this type of engagement begins to build a bridge immediately between parents and the special education teacher so that we can effectively collaborate throughout the year. On the right side is our Q1 newsletter, which I send out to my parents to keep them informed throughout the school year. It's just a quick snapshot of the focus of our months in the months prior, as well as the months to come as we shift into our focuses for Q2. And you can see in the top where I just place an intentional focus on showing that my students are valued for exactly who they are and that I'll have their best interest at heart to design a classroom that will meet their individualized needs for academic and personal growth. Okay, one thing that is most important for any special education teacher, and in fact anyone truly, is it's important to understand this. Intentional design is required when we think about the flow of our school day. And Brene Brown says the magic is in the mess. I couldn't agree more. On any given day, if any of you were to visit my classroom, there is going to be some sort of mess in that day. Absolutely. However, when I think of how I'm going to design my classroom to make it flow in the best manner possible, I absolutely believe that a component of it should be frequent reports home. And so I've been studying over the past couple of years how to use Google Forms and Sheets in a powerful way for collecting data. And in doing so, thanks to Janet Kim, I now have developed ways in which my students and I can communicate home daily with the parents of my students to ensure that parents know and understand what is occurring within the classroom daily. And it's funny because any other year, we would have just invited parents into the classroom and that would have stopped my thinking. Yet again, COVID is our catalyst, and I was forced out of my comfort zone, and I had to think, how am I going to make communication happen in an effective manner, and yet in a way that it doesn't disrupt the flow of my classroom? And for me personally, doing a daily notebook communication, that was never going to work for me. My handwriting's sloppy, no one can read it, and I'm just not very, I'm going to forget to do that one. So I needed to find out a way to intentionally design how I was going to communicate with my parents. So what you see on the left is a snapshot of what my students see daily during afternoon computer time. At the close of the day, the students are responsible for doing a daily self-reflection of what they did during the day, and they do so with visuals that are paired with the words. My students self-evaluate their behavior, and at the end, before submitting, they bring me their computer and I can fill out the teacher response as well. What is beautiful is that the form allows me to add the responses directly to a spreadsheet, which is what's auto-populating on the sheet to the right of the form. And my parents, I just share this with them at the beginning of the year in a comment only format, and boom, we've got a digital daily communication log that's completed by their child and the teacher, and it gives us a clear picture of what went on in our school day. Up above, there's another log that you see. This is our daily food log, and I've started using this year, where my students complete this during their afternoon computer time as well. And it actually came about as a student need. I had a student that has a major food aversion, and I thought, why not just make it a daily data point for all of my students? And again, just share the sheet, comment only format for my parents, and they can see the child's daily food intake. And this has been really powerful and helpful in bonding and pairing with my parents as well, because it's been so helpful for me in the classroom as well as my parents, because we all know that a hangry person is bound to have some sort of emotional or behavioral issues, whether we have a disability or not. And so this information's been really well received for the families, only further building our relationship. And so to take that data one step further that we saw, it can be manipulated, and we can actually bring it to the IEP if that were a need, and I can analyze it to have a clearer picture of just what a special education teacher does. And so at the arrow, you can see on September 17th, where I just added a comment to let the parent know, as well as to keep a record for myself, that I implemented a new strategy because I had a clear issue where a student was not eating their lunch. And by adding a strategy of a token economy paired with a highly motivating reward, this student was able to begin taking bites, and eventually throughout the week, move into a direction at the end of the next week where he was actually eating most of his lunch. These types of data and graphs are so vital and essential to my practice for not only showing what a student is doing within a school day, but what strategies are working, so that when we sit down to develop that IEP as a team, I can show without a doubt the hard data is demonstrating my strategies that are working to support student success in whatever capacity the students may need. I firmly believe these practices and approach I've shared with you just today as like my tips and tricks will help us to collaborate as an effective IEP team, and will build community that will better our education system as a whole to function in a forward-thinking way towards student success for all. Lene, you want to look at our resources for me?
Okay, so for our resources, of course, you have Leadership and Disabilities and Achievement of Hawaii. And I'm going to try and say this, KADER, IDEA dispute resolution data. You can go there at www.kaderworks.org. I did not go over that part of today's presentation where we talk about dispute resolution. However, you can go to our Learning Works page to see the presentation there. And then Derek, did you want to?
Yeah, sure. So on the bottom as well. So a part of the Speducator project, something we're doing as well is to build our community. So if you just take in the bit.ly/808 Speducate, we'll be sending information, and you'll just fill out that information, and you will You can sign up for different types of things throughout the year that we're going to be sharing out, whether it's resources or education series is what we're going to be hosting. So I'd love for you to connect with us and just fill out that bit.ly so we can get some information into the hands of parents, teachers, administrators, anybody who'd be interested in joining our community. And thank you all. Lene, I think that concludes our presentation. I'm going to stop sharing if that's okay.
All right.
Mahalo, Lene and Derek, for a very, very informative presentation today. I will be reading questions from the Q&A, and our participants can add more by typing into the Q&A box. Okay, our first question is, Lene did provide an answer for this question, but I feel like I have to.
Or we can just go to the questions. Yeah,
Okay. Just so others can hear about it, or they may need to hear about your answer. Okay, the question was, what if doctor says child needs ABA supports in school, but school insists child doesn't need ABA supports in school? Do we collect more data or request an independent evaluator?
Okay, so I'm gonna, and you're gonna have to mute yourself, right? Okay, so I get that one quite often. So a doctor's note doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're gonna get particular services. Again, it's what's appropriate to the child, and data, enough information and data is great. To answer the part where the IEE, the independent evaluation, let's say you did have an evaluation, the school did an evaluation, and you do not agree, then yes, you can ask for an independent evaluation. And then I had asked that particular viewer to please call us, because then I'd like to ask more questions and, you know, get a sense of where they're coming from.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lene. Our next question. I am an adult with autism that wants to be a special education teacher. Would Derek mind if I pick his brain on how to be a wonderful SPED teacher?
Yeah, so actually that's perfect. If you will fill out that form, the 808 bit.ly that I was just sharing about, and I can drop it in the chat as well. We have on our Someone Special page all the different routes that I can connect you right with Janet at UH to make sure that we get you whatever support you need. Yeah, so please feel free to reach out to me.
You cannot see me.
Okay. One more question. Would it be possible for Mr. Govan to share his data collection method spreadsheet with other special education teachers across the islands? Would love to have this kind of daily communication with my child's teacher, but don't want to force it on the teacher. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That makes me really happy to hear. Janet and I just did a data training on how to design those. So it's really interesting within those data sheets. It's not something you can just share. You have to actually teach the process of how you do it. I'm more than happy to help you in designing them and giving you the resources in how you can design those websites. So again, fill out that bit.ly, and I'll make sure that, and just in the comments, something that you're looking to do is the data sheet training, and I can get you the RSVP and get you the information.
Thank you so much, Derek. Okay, while everyone's busy typing their questions, Trixie, can we announce our first 2 door prize winners? Trixie, you're mute.
Yes, something's wrong with my computer. I cannot type. I cannot do nothing. Can you hear me? Oh.
Are you there, Trixie? Okay, we can go back to that. Let's go pick some more questions here. Thank you so much for your questions. So our next question, what additional supports do you have in your classroom? I think this question is for Derek.
There's a lot going on in my classroom. So this particular year, and again, it has to be focused on what the needs of my students were. So I built a program within our class that was going to actually motivate my students to have vocational practice before they even hit the high school. So we're working on building like a website of visual resumes. So the students are actually working in a coffee cart in different capacities, so that when we finish the coffee cart, I'm able to say that this is the skills that we've mastered, this like verbal directions, or we're doing phone orders for coffee, or whatever it is that we're working on. But different supports, it just depends for every individual student. So one student, for instance, might be able to come in ready on their schedule, and they know to hit the floor and ready to tackle whatever it is in their coffee cart. Whereas I know another student needs to come in and get an immediate sensory need met. So we might go outside and we need to do heavy work of a heavy ball slam. So it just really depends what the kid needs. Lots of different supports around my classroom.
Thank you so much, Derek. Another question: what can you do if the communication between parents and school seems to be broken beyond repair? I think both Lene and Derek can answer this question.
Ooh, I don't know, but if Derek brought his graph and how he collected his data to the meeting and showed me that, relationship repaired. I mean, I love that. I think it's important, sometimes as a parent myself, when I first, my children started receiving special education services, I used to get frustrated, and I was that parent that maybe got a little disgruntled. But I think if I had a better understanding, and if it was explained to me and communicated to me, like, this is what this means, and this is why we do this, the why behind what was happening, I think that would have helped.
Can you see me in the video?
I can see you, but I cannot hear you.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Trixie, are you able to mute yourself?
Oh, no, nothing's working.
Oh, okay. So maybe if I can continue then, but sorry. So as I was saying, when it comes to communication, I think the other part of it is, if you feel it's irreparable, maybe there's somebody within the administrative team, or maybe a counselor, somebody on campus. I mean, it's Hawaii, everybody knows everybody. Maybe
My
someone.
background doesn't even have the spin background.
So maybe if you know someone, a neutral person on the school campus, maybe you could use that person, talk it out, and work that way to find common ground or to repair the relationship. I mean, that's my suggestion. I don't know. What about you, Derek?
I agree. There's times both sides, right? So there's times that we'll see a SPED teacher is closed off to a parent, and then we'll see times when a parent is closed off to the SPED teacher. So in my opinion, and what I've seen, is there's times when we know our kids have not gotten the best quality education that they should have received, correct? So I try to keep that very grounded, because I know our research and data shows that we don't have all the licensed classroom teachers that we need in our classes, especially in classrooms such as mine. So again, keeping myself grounded, that these parents they know their child the best. They only want what is best for their child, and knowing that I can work to build and repair this relationship, and show in a way that's not humble, or that it's not arrogant, but being very humble to say, I know this is your prior experiences. I see you, I hear you, and let's work to make sure that this year doesn't look anything like that. And again, I do take a vulnerable step to put myself out there in a way that I try to build that bridge very, very quickly, because just like I've got to pair with my students, I find a lot of value in just doing that with my parents as well.
Thank you so much, Derek and Lene. Last question. Do you need to ask the team if it is okay to have your child attend an IEP meeting? And again, that can be answered by you both. Yeah.
On my end, I'm more than welcome to have any student at my IEP meeting.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Definitely. Just come on in.
Yeah, no permission there.